internships, we do want to take a minute to thank our sponsors for MTAN this year, for RSM and EY serving as our career fair sponsors. And our agenda for the next 57 minutes will be going through this material here. So Mr. Rose is going to walk us through the accounting internship credit process, just to make sure that you're familiar with that procedure for applying for internship credit. Then we're going to talk about the actual Meet the Accountants Night career fair, just so you're making the most of that experience. That career fair for the first time is going to be a virtual career fair, so we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with the new layout and experience of a virtual career fair. Make sure you're comfortable with that. We'll talk about the registration and management of your participation in that event, as well as the interview week to follow. So we're going to walk through that experience and make sure that you're familiar with how to manage your participation in that. We also want to talk about some best practices, just so you're familiar with some recommendations that we have after doing this event for several years now, some experiences that will set you up for success, as well as making sure you're familiar with the actual application for internship positions through Handshake, and then the interviews to follow. And then, of course, we'll leave some time for question and answers to close. And if we have enough time, I'll also go out to the live website and sort of walk you through some of this stuff, the actual website and Handshake as well. But much material to get through, so let's just jump right in and let's advance to our first topic, which would be the actual accounting internship credit. So John, take it away.
So if you would like to obtain academic credit for your internship, and you don't have to, it's just an option. And one of the reasons you may want to do that is because it does count for an elective in your program. So this is being the undergraduate program. So if you have 2 electives that you have to select, ACCT, upper division electives, those 40,000 levels, we have a 40,000 level internship course. So you don't have to, but if you'd like, you can take that option. If you go into Google and type Kent State Accounting Department, you'll get to our website, and that's this link right here. It gives you all the information about doing so. How do you obtain academic credit? If you can advance to the next slide, please. So to be able to apply for the academic credit, you do have to be a junior or senior accounting major. We look at 2 GPA requirements for this. First, your ACCT GPA, that's all the accounting courses you took, that needs to be at least 3.0. We look at your transcripts, we include all ACCT courses, no matter how many attempts, but we also include the intro classes, so that helps out most people. And we also look at the overall GPA requirement, and both those need to be 3.0. Now, when do we look at it? If you get an internship out of this process, and some of you already did from our meet and greet last semester, if it's a spring internship that starts in January, we look at your grades after they post this semester. So they don't post till after finals week in December. That's when we look at it. So if you get an internship in the summer, we'll wait until your grades post from spring 2021 in May. So that's when we look at it. If you can advance to the next slide, please. So to be able to participate in this, you do have to, again, be an undergraduate accounting major, completed both the intro classes, and be in a class right now, a 30,000 level course. So if you're enrolled right now in Intro to Systems and Intermediate Accounting 1, then you're good to go. As long as you have one of those classes that you're in, you're eligible to then use 43092, the internship course. The internship has to be 300 hours. That's not an issue if you're working the entire semester. Even if it's virtual, which I have a feeling some of them will be, you'll get the 300 hours. And the assignments that you perform need to be accounting related. The application should start after you receive an offer. So once you receive an offer, you can start it. If you type into Google Kent State Career Services Office, College of Business, you'll get right to their website, and the process starts there. The application actually goes to the Career Services Office. They look it over, make sure it's complete, then it's forwarded to me. Do pay attention to the deadlines. The deadline to apply is the week before finals week this semester, if it's for a spring internship. If it's for a summer, don't worry about it. I'll email you later. You don't apply until next semester. Do pay attention to those details, because if you submit it afterwards, we won't consider it. So when I look at your initial application, I grant conditional approval if that's the case, because I don't know your grades yet. I look to make sure you had the coursework, it's a good internship, you know, the supervisor filled out the form, all that good stuff. But I cannot do a final grade verification until after grades are posted. So let's say finals week ends on Friday, grades usually don't have to be posted to the following Tuesday, so that's when I have to go back through everything and take a look at it. But again, don't miss any of the deadlines, because you won't receive academic credit. And then I'll know about your internship if you complete the survey. So I'll send you a link for a survey if you signed up for Meet the Accountants Night. And that's how I know if you got an internship, by completing that brief survey. So I usually send that survey at the beginning of November, after the interview week in October. Things are starting to finalize. So I'll send you that link. It's brief. Do complete it. We use this information to plan for the following year. We use it to see what happened. And this is the first year for virtual, so we want to see how it went, if it's ever to be used again in the future. So if you do not complete the survey, I won't give you academic credit if you apply. So I'll give you the option, if you apply, that you want to go back and complete the survey, that's fine. But if you don't complete it, then I don't consider your application. So the common questions we get about the timing of this event. So I always hear, why do we have to do it now? Can't we wait and do it later in the semester? This is moving way too fast. Can you slow it down? And I have too many exams going on during the interview week. So this whole process is dictated by the employers. We're not the only school they're doing this for. So if I were to go check the dates, I know Akron's is virtual. I'm sure Cleveland State is too. Throw Baldwin Wallace in there, John Carroll. Then they have other schools, the Ohio States of the world, the Miami, so OU. They're all at the same time, so it's a big process for the recruiters. And they want everything done by the time the holidays hit in November, because they have to be ready for their schedule in January for when you start. So they dictate the process. So you really have to pay attention to all the deadlines and know, well, what happens if I have exams during the interview week? Don't double book. Make sure you're figuring out how you're going to manage your schedule, because it is tough, but this process, again, is dictated by the employers.
Okay. All right. So let's dive now into the event itself. And so Meet the Accountants Night is the virtual career fair that will happen. We do encourage all accounting majors to participate, but just keep in mind that many of the internship positions will be for juniors and a minimum of 3.0. And you can find the specific criteria based on each individual position posting or full-time job posting for what they're looking for. But if you are outside of that category, we still want you to participate. So looking at you, first and second year students, the strategy that you can use if you're not a person that is, actively seeking an internship and in the market for an internship or full-time position, is to use what we're going to talk about in a minute is group sessions. And so employers, you're going to have the opportunity to meet one-on-one with an employer, a recruiter, or you're going to have the opportunity to use what's called group sessions, which is a gathering of a group, just like the name sounds like, and it's going to be more general information. Some employers are going to use it to play videos. Some might have like kind of a panel discussion where multiple recruiters are tuning in to talk about their opportunities in their companies, but it's more general information, Q&A, not necessarily talking about your specific candidacy. That is going to be for the one-on-one. So that's kind of your strategy if you are a first, second year student, not actively looking for an internship, we still want you there. We still, employers are going to be anxious to meet you and get kind of introductions out of the way so you can discuss candidacy maybe later down the road. But obviously, if you're in the market, you're going to be very focused on the particular jobs and the companies and talking about your candidacy. But both of those, you need to do your research. And so we're going to walk through how you can do that. And obviously, we're going to hammer this point again and again. You got to follow up with the introductions and folks that you're going to meet through this event. Follow up, follow up, follow up. There's no better way to set yourself apart than to follow up, or not to follow up, because then you're just kind of forgotten about, just because you're not kind of front and center and keeping their attention. So make sure you are following up. Right. So first and foremost, to participate, you are going to need an active Handshake profile. I'm going to show you here in a second where you can find easy access to Handshake. It's all over the place, kind of on the Kent State web space, but you can find it specifically from our website. I'll show you a screenshot in a second, but you must activate and update your Handshake profile in order to participate in these virtual fairs, because really that's your access. The event takes place in Handshake, so you need a profile in order to participate. The setup really holds your hand very well through setting up a complete profile. You're going to have a little kind of thermometer that says, you're 25%, you're 50% of the way there. Here are the things you can do to get to 100%. Also, you have the ability to control the visibility of your profile. If you are a Kent State student, you actually do have kind of a basic structure of an account already in existence within Handshake. So your name, your major, your email, your academic information is already in there, but it's laying there invisible and dormant until you go in, activate your profile, and tell it what you want to be visible. So you are going to find when you log in for the first time, very first time, there's going to be information already in there about you, and that is what is being fed to Handshake by Kent State. But again, not visible to anyone until you tell it you want it to be visible. We do encourage you, if you're going to be going to these events, make your profile as public as possible, just so you can be found when recruiters and other students are reaching out to you. But again, those settings are going to be available for you to control. But you got to have a profile, and it needs to be visible. To actually access Handshake, this is a screenshot of our website, so kent.edu/business/careers. And over on the left-hand side of the page, you're going to see a link for Handshake, which will take you to the page that you see. So we've already have a lot of information up there about these new virtual career fairs, some videos and articles to help get you familiar with what these events will, what the experience of these events will be like. But you can access Handshake right there, as well as some other places through Flashline and whatnot. But just know that it is available here at the College of Business Career Services website. So once you're in, so how do I find the Meet the Accountants Career Fair once I'm in Handshake? So first and foremost, this is what your homepage will look like once your account is active. So you can search through jobs, events, messages that you receive. It very much has the same kind of look and feel of a LinkedIn or Facebook. But so if you click events, that's going to get you started. And if you click events, it's going to take you to a page like this, where you can use either the search bar, or you can toggle the various filters to isolate the types of events that you want to. I know that many folks here today registered through Handshake to attend this session today, so you're probably well familiar with this feature. But I just want to point out, this is where you actually find the career fairs and various events through Handshake. So Meet the Accountants Night, the 17th from 5 to 8. I know that I want to register, so I hit the purple registration button, and immediately I am told that I've registered, but I have a next step. And this is a critical next step. If you have registered for the event and that is all, so if I were to stop right here and take no additional steps, it's the equivalent of if we were in the ballroom at the Student Center and this event was taking place kind of in its traditional sense, with tables and a big auditorium. This would kind of be like you stepped into the door, took one step, and that's all the further you went. Yes, you technically attended the event, but you didn't talk to anybody. And so you're not making the most of it. So in order to engage in the conversation with recruiters at this event, you need to schedule what they call sessions. And this is what I was talking about a second ago with one-on-one and group sessions. So to set up, and Handshake is going to remind you to book your sessions again and again. But immediately you're going to get this pop-up when you register. So view employer sessions is the purple button that I would click next. And when you are booking these sessions, before we get to actually how you schedule, I just want to show like what these group sessions look like and sort of what you can expect. So again, that's group session, one-on-one session, two very different things, and they're going to be used in different ways by the recruiters. The group sessions are going to be 30 minutes long. Obviously, multiple students can attend, and so you will be, in a setting very similar to what we're in right now, where you've got one or two presenters and a whole room full of people. There can be up to 50 students, fellow students in the this group session with you. And again, it's going to last 30 minutes. You can join either of these sessions up to 5 minutes in advance. We'll show you what that looks like later, but just know that you can log in, check your settings 5 minutes ahead of time, but no more. For a group session, it's going to allow you to tune in late, but only, I think, 10 minutes late. It's not a very big window you have to be late for these sessions. So obviously we would discourage being late for any of them, but just know that technically speaking, you won't be allowed to tune in past a certain point. The one-on-one sessions, those are a lot quicker. So these are only 10 minutes. So this is one student, one employer, or one job seeker, internship seeker, and one recruiter. And so that's going to be, just a one-on-one conversation, and they only last 10 minutes. And this is essentially simulating the experience of you walking up to a recruiter's table and asking them questions and talking about your specific candidacy. So if you need a kind of frame of mind as to how to use these one-on-one sessions, it's not an all-out interview, but it's more or less a replacement for you actually walking physically up to a recruiter's table with questions and an introduction about yourself, and to talk about your candidacy and exchange contact details, all of that sort of thing. All right, so reminder, just quick, if you got questions, raise your hand, throw it in the chat as we go. I'm happy to take a quick break to answer those. There's a quick question, one-on-one sessions for internship seekers only, what about full-time? So this would be for both. So no matter what the position, whether it's you're a student seeking an internship, student about to graduate seeking a full-time job, or an alum who's attending seeking a full-time job, all of this is true for all of those scenarios. So good question. Because the job itself, you're talking to the recruiter, and so you can talk about whatever position that you like. All right, so I have registered, and it's telling me I need to sign up for some sessions. All of this is going to be pre-scheduled. The best part about this is that it eliminates all those lines that you would stand in an auditorium. So you don't have to stand around in uncomfortable shoes and stand in line at a recruiter's table. You can pre-schedule your entire evening based on these sessions. And so you can really, fill your schedule effectively and know exactly where you need to be at a particular time. I do see a question about employers not having sessions available. I'm going to get to that question in a minute, but that's an excellent question. So your sessions, and so I have now clicked on my sessions, and you can see that I've got no sessions booked. So I want to click either show open sessions or available sessions over here, and it's going to take me to the list of recruiters. And so this is, I'm getting closer to the question that David asked here in a second. You're going to notice that as you scroll down through the registrations by companies, you can see that one-on-one sessions are those one-on-one sessions. And so I could click that and book my one-on-one session to meet with that representative or team of representatives. Many of these groups are going to be bringing multiple people, so you could select the individual recruiter that you want to talk to. You're also seeing group sessions. And so again, those are 30 minutes long, so you can click and register for those. If I click register for a group session, there's going to be a pop-up just like this where you can confirm that, yes, this is what I want to book. And so I would click confirm to sign up for that particular group session. Or if I clicked a one-on-one, I would get a pop-up that looks similar to this. So I'm going to be meeting with John. He's at this employer. These are the available times that I'm seeing. If I'm seeing red dots, that means that I'm not available at that time because I have a commitment elsewhere. So according to this, I already have an interview scheduled at 6 and 6:10. So it's not going to allow me to sign up for those two times. Handshake is built to really prevent you from double booking yourself, which is comforting, but it is something that you need to keep track of as to what your schedule is, obviously, so you know where to click on at the particular time. So I would click confirm if I'm meeting with John for a one-on-one, and I would get a confirmation, and I'll show you where you can track that. You're not going to get a confirmation email. You're only going to get a confirmation email to register for the event, but your particular sessions, I'm going to show you how to track those here in a second. Back to David's question about, I noticed that some employers, it says employer has no sessions available. That means that it's not that they're full, it means that that particular employer has not activated their sessions yet, and we're working with kind of our last group of 6 or 7 employers who have yet to kind of arrange their day and indicate which sessions they're going to be available for you to meet. So we would encourage you for whether you're seeing jobs or the sessions themselves, continue to monitor this event so that when they do update it, you can take that opportunity to sign up. But if it says employer has no sessions available, what that means is that they haven't activated their sessions, and so they essentially we're working with them to remind them and nudge them to do that, because we know that students are going to be looking for those opportunities to do so. But just keep checking back, and we'll keep nudging the employers to tweak those settings so that they make themselves available. Couple other questions. Eden is asking, many companies only have group sessions or only have available one-on-one sessions for the first hour. Will our resumes be sent out to all employers? Yes, they will. So resumes are going to be available. As an attendee of this event, your resume will then become available to all the recruiters who are in attendance. So we're really trying to not limit, based on the feasibility of multiple recruiters and times to sign up. We recognize that is going to put a limit on the amount of people that you can interact with, and vice versa, recruiters and the amount of students that they can interact with. So we are going to make resumes available. If you registered, your resume will be available to recruiters. James is asking, are there a limited number of time slots per company? That is going to be depending on how many recruiters they decide to bring. So for a 3-hour event, and they're every 10 minutes, that means one person can meet with 18 people. So what we're seeing is teams are bringing multiple representatives to take it from 18 and double that and triple that, depending on what time or how many folks that they're bringing. So that's the only limitation. If they have control of how many people they want to meet with and what time slots they want to be available for. So group sessions, again, if you're not seeing a one-on-one, but you are seeing a group, take advantage and attend that group session just so you can kind of learn and introduce yourself via those group sessions. Should we leave a 10-minute gap between interviews so we are not late to the next interview? That would be a wise strategy, just to give yourself that buffer. Yes, keep checking Handshake as employers will open up more slots closer to the event. Yes. Okay, good questions. Let's keep rolling. So I've signed up for some sessions. I want to track what I've signed up for. I was doing a lot of clicking. I need to make sure I've got my schedule. So again, that's where you can go back to your sessions, and I can see that I signed up from 6:50 to 7 o'clock a one-on-one with this particular employer. When it comes time, when it's 6:50, so when it's 6:45, because again, you can sign up you can join up to 5 minutes before it starts. This join video will turn purple and you can click, and that's when you're going to get the video of a web meeting just like we're in right now. But it is going to see, you've got some vacancy from 5 to 6:50 that you could fill up if need be. But this is going to be a summary of the event sessions that you've signed up for. You can manage your one-on-ones. So let's say that you got a little over anxious and you accidentally booked a time that's not going to work. You can cancel. I would not recommend it. I would recommend, be strategic with what you're booking, but if you do need to cancel, you can. Just make sure that you don't put yourself in a situation to where you're canceling and then you've removed your ability to meet with that employer, because it's a popular employer and essentially it's the equivalent of a long line. A lot of people are wanting to meet with them. So be careful with your cancellations, but you do have the ability to cancel. You also, when you do that, you're going to get the notification to let that recruiter know why you're canceling. If it's a cancellation that you want to make sure that they are aware that you're canceling because due to a conflict, you're not able to, let's say you're not able to attend the event. You've got an emergency and you're no longer able to attend. You want to make the connection and make sure that they know why you're no longer able to meet with them. Just know that we would encourage you to reach out to that recruiter outside of this little box. It's not a guarantee that they're going to see this little message in terms of like a thank you message or an apology message. I would highly encourage you to send them an email directly outside of this pop-up screen. But it is going to prompt you to let the recruiter know why you're canceling. But again, I would really encourage you to send them a message directly to be a little bit more strategic about that communication. All right. Career fair details. So we saw available sessions, your sessions. We walked through both of those. Now career fair details. So how do I know who all in terms of recruiters is attending? You go to career fair details, which was right here. And then I scroll down until I see employers attending. So here's just going to be a quick thumbnail of 6 of them. You can show the other 37, and up pops a list that you can scroll through to see all of the companies attending. You'll notice in this example, RSM, it gives you a quick summary of their company. You can click follow if you want to get updates about that particular company. You can see the job titles that they have active in Handshake right now that you could obviously apply to, but also then discuss with them during this one-on-one meeting at the career fair. And you can click on their logo here just to bring up their employer page, which would essentially be kind of a LinkedIn page, Facebook page, almost a facsimile of their website, to give some more background as if you're not already familiar with that particular employer. But just know that you are going to get this summary as you scroll down through all of the employers attending the event so that you can become familiar with who you could potentially talk to. You can also use the search bar. So if you know that a particular company is going to be there, but you're not immediately seeing them, you can just throw their name up in the search bar and you can navigate to them by name in the search feature as well. This would be handy if you're familiar, you know that you're targeting a particular company and you're curious if they're coming to the event. You can just do a quick search and find out yes or no, are they going to be at this career fair? Again, just to show in this example, it's just showing you what's on the employer contact page. So you are able to get some contact details and website information, fellow students who have worked already at that company. So perhaps you want to do some quick fact finding about other students who have either completed an internship or maybe they're working there currently. And then obviously it links out to their public website that you can do some more research. So this is really where we talk about do your research before the event, get familiar with those companies that you have targeted and that you plan on speaking to at the event. Just so you're informed, you're showed up, you're ready to ask them questions about their company and about their particular opportunity, and you can match your candidacy with that opportunity in detail and not just in general. So I heard you have an internship, tell me about it. No. You need to be a lot more specific. Again, you only have 10 minutes. So even if this was a face-to-face event, you now have kind of the added motivator that you only have 10 minutes. And so you need to kind of show up prepared, ready with some questions to make best use of that 10 minutes. All right. Keep the questions coming if you got them. And you'll notice on this page, I'm going to go back one page. So at Apple Growth, you're seeing jobs in the lower right corner. So if I know that this audit internship or tax internship or full-time position is something I want to pursue, you can just click and up pops that particular opportunity in detail. So there's more detail if you were to scroll down on this screenshot, but you can apply through Handshake in many cases. Not all cases, but frequently you're going to see that apply button or apply externally button for you to go ahead and submit your resume to officially apply for that position. If you are interested in a position, we would encourage you to apply just so you can talk in more detail with that recruiter about your candidacy during your one-on-one or group session. So if you were to click apply externally, just know that Handshake is going to prompt you to upload your resume. So have your resume ready to upload. If it's not already posted on your profile, you can just search through the various drives on your laptop and upload it that way. Then this green button, step 2, is either going to be apply or external application. Simply means that in this case, you're going to submit an application here in Handshake, but in addition to that, they're going to kick you over to their HR website frequently to fill out the rest of the application. Okay. Yes, and this would be, so after I've applied, I then, if I've applied with, in this case, auditor of the state, I would then want to go, find that recruiter to talk specifically about my candidacy and have a follow-up conversation. Okay, preparing for sessions. There's a quick, we have a question. Should you apply before the event? Yes, you can apply before the event. Absolutely. You don't have to, but you absolutely can. If you have some questions, you want to discuss it in more detail before you apply, that's fine too. Actually, it's a good segue let's go to the one-on-one sessions here in terms of how to prepare for the actual one-on-one sessions. That can be one of the things that you discuss in the 10-minute meeting is you indicate that you've applied or that you've not yet applied or that you plan to apply, but you can be specific in terms of your candidacy and where you are in the process. So obviously this is the moment for your introduction and your elevator pitch, where you can tell them about yourself, your background, why you're interested, and exactly what you're interested in. The exchange contact details in the chat. I've talked to a lot of recruiters over the summer as we've tested out this new process, and it's become apparent that they're going to be asking students to sort of drop their contact information into the chat. So just be prepared to do that. So that's kind of the equivalent of exchanging business cards if this was face-to-face. So be prepared to throw your contact details into the chat just so they can follow up with you and record that information. Ask questions, so show up again with informed questions to ask the recruiter. Make sure you've got an exit strategy. So how are you going to wrap up the conversation? Hopefully it's not going to be, you're at 9:59 and realize you need to just kind of stop talking because your 10 minutes are up. But a good way to wrap up is just thank them for their time. You can talk about next steps in the process and things like that. Ask about their process. Again, you can indicate whether or not you've applied for the position or not. But just think about that exit strategy for yourself from these 10-minute meetings. Then again, said it before, say it again, follow up. You now have their contact details if you've exchanged email addresses. So make sure that you're sending them a direct message after the fair to, you can frame it as a thank you message. Thank you for your time. I really enjoyed talking with you about X, Y, and Z. Looking forward to, the next step in the process, but absolutely make sure to follow up. That would also be true for group sessions. So we'll go up to group sessions here in a second. Send thank yous and follow up. Make sure you're asking questions. Much like this, you can prepare for a group session to be just kind of like the meeting we're in now. So asking questions, I might have those ready in a document off to the side that you could throw into the chat. In a one-on-one, you can articulate those over your microphone, but you could do it over the chat as well. But just have those questions kind of ready to go to copy paste into the chat for the group sessions. And then general presentation to the group. So you're not talking about your specific candidacy in those group sessions. Those are for the one-on-ones. All right, I saw some question activity over here. Are the internships for the following year? Can you apply, for example, if you want an internship? Okay, so that was answered. Okay, very good. Moving along. Now, interviews following the career fair. So this is, we've had our interactions through either the one-on-ones or the group sessions. So you're to the point where you're applying for positions. And I want to talk about what's called on-campus interviews. And that's Handshake's language for what we would, in any other semester, any other year besides 2020, we would be having these, interviews taking place physically here on campus and having an accounting interview week. So it obviously looks a little bit different this year in that there are going to be some of the recruiters attending Meet the Accountants Night who are still going to use the quote on-campus interview week. And then there will be others who have dedicated times in which they will be doing their follow-up interviews of students that they met or have collected applications from the various recruitment fairs that they're going to. So again, I would highly encourage you to ask the recruiter specifically about their process, about their interview process or next steps in the process, so that you can get a better sense of, are they using the on-campus interviews here at Kent State, or are they using some sort of dedicated interview day in which they'll hold all their interviews, from across Northeast Ohio. But obviously, many of these interviews, I would expect nearly all of these interviews would be held virtually. Our on-campus interview process will entirely be virtual. But again, not every single employer who attends the Meet the Accountants Night event is going to be using these, quote, on-campus interviews. And I'll show you how to find out which ones are here in a second. If you're finding that an employer doesn't have a position listed in Handshake, then I would encourage you to use that profile page that we looked at and that will give you their web address, or you can just Google them to go out to their public site, their HR site, and look at their internship program on their own website. So if you're seeing a company is attending an event or you've targeted them for an internship, if you're not seeing the posted position in Handshake, simply go out to their public site so that you can get an idea of what the internship experience or full-time experience offering is in detail. Okay, but again, during these events, that's a great question to ask about their particular process, just because, again, very unique circumstances this fall. So just make sure you're asking those kind of questions so you can be informed about what your potential targets are doing in terms of their search process. All right. So I'm going to talk quickly about our timeline in our last, we've got about 20 minutes left. So we're going to talk about our student timeline. And so this is really where, if you're participating, if your target company is participating in the, quote, on-campus interview week, which again will be virtual, but it's called on-campus interviews. You can find the student timeline for when you should submit applications and when you can expect to hear back as to whether or not they will want to interview you as part of that, quote, on-campus interview week. And that's all listed here in this timeline, but let's march through it in a couple of quick screenshots here. So Thursday the 17th is Meet the Accountants Career Fair. By that night, by midnight that night, you will need to have your application submitted. So maybe this goes to the question that we had prior about when you should apply for these positions. It can be if they're participating in this interview week, and really for all of them, I would encourage you to have your applications in after, immediately the same evening of this event, just so you know the connection has been made at the career fair. I put in my application. They know that I'm interested in being a candidate for this position. So make sure that those applications get in. If you're seeing that they're participating in on-campus interviews, you can just navigate, as it says here, click on the jobs tab. I'm going to show you this quick visual, but the text is here. Click on on-campus interviews, and you can use either the label or the keyword search for MTAN, Meet the Accountants Night, to view which organizations are going to be holding their interviews as part of our on-campus interview week. And then you can submit your resume for those particular positions linked to those interviews. This is what that looks like. So if I'm in looking for these, quote, on-campus interviews, I would click jobs and then the on-campus interview tab right here. I can either use the MTAN filter, Meet the Accountants Night filter keyword, or you can use this label right here that will isolate just those jobs that are using our on-campus interview week. Again, virtual, but it's called on-campus interviews. Keep the questions coming if you have any questions, especially as we get into this timeline. So again, marching along in this particular timeline. So Thursday from 5 to 8 on the 17th is the actual career fair. You've got your applications in by midnight that night. So the interview invitations, and so essentially employers are going to be reviewing applications and sending out invitations for interviews over those next, 5 days. So by Tuesday, the following week, you will know whether your application is listed as a primary, alternate, or declined. And so that's essentially, your indicator as to whether or not you're going to move forward in their interview process, if they're going to be using this interview process through the on-campus interviews. So what happens if I'm selected as primary? the following day on Wednesday, your essentially permission would open up so that you could schedule your interview time. So the interview week will take place the following week, and you'll see the dates and times that the interviewer has said that they're going to be, quote, on campus virtually for those particular interview days and times. So if you find out your status for that particular job that you applied to is switched to primary during that period that they're reviewing it, you can begin scheduling on Wednesday the 23rd. Make sure that you do it by the 24th, because it will close at midnight on the 24th. If you're selected as alternate, you've got a little shorter window, but you can begin scheduling first thing Thursday the 24th, and then you've essentially got that day to schedule your alternates. And the instructions are listed here. And again, this whole document is on our website. There's a question. So Thursday the 24th at midnight, interview schedules are locked and final, so you can't change your on-campus interview schedule after that time. Okay, so interview week, again, this is taking place the 28th through Friday the 2nd. So if your employer is utilizing our on-campus interview process, this is where those interviews will take place. I do want to point out, employers can make you an offer for an internship at any, and this is particular for this year, I would say even more so than other years, because interviewers are going to be using different processes and different timelines. This was the timeline if they're participating in our process, but not all recruiters will. Friday, October 9th is the date that we have advertised, Career Services and the university has advertised as our sort of selection day. So Friday, October 9th should not be, or should be, when employers are asking for a response from you if they've made you an offer. It's not a guarantee that they're going to stick to it, but we have asked all recruiters to follow this process, to not pressure students to give them a response of yes, I accept, no, I decline, prior to that Friday, October 9th. So you'll notice that's several weeks after the actual event. So all this is happening, but in order to allow the process to play out, to have integrity for the interview process for all of the recruiters attending Meet the Accountants Night, we're asking that everybody hold off on expecting a response from students until Friday, October 9th. But once October 9th hits, then it's yes, that's your acceptance day. You can notify those employers that you have accepted their offer.
And Jeff, first.
Absolutely.
So this right here is usually an issue, and employers start putting a lot of pressure on you when they do, when they give you an offer beforehand. So let me give you a few words of advice here. If you're still interviewing or you have an interest in other organizations, I recommend you say to the employer, the school has told me that, offers should come in beginning October 9th. Is it okay if I wait to that date to give you my decision? So that is something to think about. If they say no, what are you going to do? You have to make a decision at that point. Some of these recruiters get aggressive for better students. I can say to you this, if they're applying that pressure to you now before they even get you in the door, what's going to happen when you're in that organization? That's something you have to consider, but it may be an organization you really want. But if you committed to any interviews, don't cancel any interviews if you accept an offer from somebody. You cannot cancel those interviews. If you do, we hear about it, you look bad. It's a very small industry we work in, and your name gets spread around. I know it, I've been in it. So if you all of a sudden get an offer and say, yeah, I'm going to accept it. Oh, I'm not going to go on all those other interviews, 3 interviews I signed up for. It opens up a slot for somebody else. It doesn't open up a slot. They already committed to the schedules. So you need to go on those interviews because you'll make yourself look bad. You make us look bad. We start getting emails from the employers and they're irritated. But the employers hopefully will honor this, but there's some aggressive ones that won't. So be ready for that. Know how to first put the blame on us as a school saying, we told you to wait, and then you'll have to make your decision from there. Thanks, Andy.
Absolutely. There was a question in the chat about if our resume is already on Handshake, is that all we need to do? Make sure that it's the most updated copy of your resume, the one you want to use for the event. And if you are applying for a position, you will also need to, you'll be prompted to include your resume, essentially upload your resume again, or confirm that that's the copy of your resume you want to submit during an application. One quick note is make sure that your settings for the resume are set to public, just so it's not hidden and employers will be able to access that copy of your resume. So again, you'll be prompted for the privacy settings when you're updating your resume or uploading your resume on Handshake, but just make sure it's set to public. Again, just to make sure it's fully visible to those that you want it to be. So accounting, we also have a specific accounting mock interview day in which you can get some practice prior to, this will be a week after the actual career fair, but prior to all of the interviews kicking off the following week. We do have accounting mock interview day, and you can search again in the events in Handshake and register for this event. So you just click RSVP, and then you will receive in your email confirmation the link to move forward with actually scheduling your specific time on the 24th throughout that day. So you'll RSVP, and then just like today, you'll get a confirmation with a link for next steps in the process. But highly encourage you to take advantage of this practice interviewing. You get some really good feedback, and there's no strings attached. And so you can, if you bomb in these mock interviews, it's a lot less pressure, and you get some, some kind of blunt feedback, and take it in stride, incorporate those lessons, and then you're off to the races the following week when the interview actually counts. All right, so what to do after interviews. So now we've gone to the career fair, we've got some interviews, applications are out, I've completed my interview, what do I do now? So again, send thank yous, make sure you follow up, make sure you're staying on that recruiter's mind, and you're keeping them informed of your thought process along the way. These don't have to be real long, eloquent emails. They can just be brief and to the point, but we still encourage you to write professionally, and email is absolutely okay. And in terms of how fast this process moves, I would encourage you to send an email, and then maybe you can also follow it up with a handwritten letter. But you also have to ask the question if they're working remotely, or are they going to be at the office to get that letter? So I would just as soon trust email. But I wouldn't send like private or messages within Handshake or LinkedIn or any other social media. Email is kind of the most, or what is the most professional way to kind of send these electronically. So don't look, lean on LinkedIn messages and things like that. What to do if you do not hear back from an organization. This is really, you can get a better sense of what to do here based on the interview conversation. So this is really where you want to ask about the timeline, their timeline and their process. So you can get a good sense of where those checkpoints are, so that when a checkpoint, sort of a specific date that they've provided as to when decisions are going to be made, when that comes and goes, then you can follow up with them via email just to indicate, where, are there any other questions that you have about my candidacy? You mentioned that there would be this particular date, decisions would be made, so I'm just checking in regarding the position that we discussed. You can follow up, but just make sure that you're getting a better, you're being more informed about what those checkpoints are, so that you're not sending them a bunch of messages prematurely before they've had the opportunity to make those decisions. All right, we talked about Friday, October 9th as the selection day. What if you receive an offer, still have interviews? Again, we've sort of covered that with the Friday, October 9th. Make sure that you're keeping folks informed about your decision making, and not just leave it as no response. So if you're still thinking things over, make sure you're still responding and keeping them informed about your decision process. And so it's not just an email that's sitting out there and you have not responded to it. That's not the way to go, and it's absolutely more professional to keep them informed about your decision making. All right, any other questions? How do you make sure your account is public? It's in your, as you scroll over, I think on the left-hand side of your profile, you should be able to see the settings for public versus private. If not, then the top right-hand corner where you see your initials, you can click, and there's various settings there as well. And this is on your Handshake profile. Okay, resume. So we'll go through this real quick, and then we'll have a few minutes for some other Q&A.
So a couple things, Andy, that you mentioned The employers will ask, well, we get this comment a lot. When you're in that 10-minute session, please have 1 or 2 questions for that employer. That's a comment we get a lot. They didn't have any questions for us. Now you realize your 1 or 2 questions you can use for almost every employer. Should be a little specific to the one you're really interested in, but have 1 or 2 because that's a comment we get a lot. Before you leave that 10 minutes, if you're interested and you're going to know if you are beforehand and if it's really going well, please ask them for their time frame, as Andy mentioned, because what is the next steps? Get those next steps so you don't have to bother them with emails. They're not only talking to you. You know, there's hundreds of students applying, you know, in Ohio for these positions. So know the time frame to be ready for it. On your resume, as shown here, I recommend your education section look like this. So in this individual here has an expected graduation of May 2021. It's the bachelor's. Now, this individual was going to have 150 hours at the same time. That means they're double majored, transferred hours from somewhere else. But let's say you're only going to have 120. That's normally what a bachelor's degree is. If you were going to talk to any public accounting firms, they want to know when you're going to have 150. The 150 is required to become certified in the state of Ohio as all the other states. You need 150 hours. Sometimes they let you sit for the exam before 150 hours, not currently in Ohio, but the bottom line is you cannot become certified until you have 150. This is what the CPA firms are going to be looking for because this is what their business is. They're CPAs, CPA services, so be ready for that. You have to know how you're going to get it. You may not know how you're going to get it. Come up with an answer for that event. It's going to change. You know, your plans may change. If you have a double major, transferred majors from another major, you probably are going to have the 150. Your other 2 options are, you could just take classes to get to 150. If you're going to do that, please take classes that are going to help you on the CPA exam. Don't waste your money by taking, you know, just anything, which typically you can if you have our undergraduate degree. The other option is pursuing an MBA, an MSA. We have a program with our MSA, and I'm the MSA coordinator, that a couple of your electives can count in both programs. So the MSA is 30 hours program, 30 credit hours. 2 of those classes can count on both your undergraduate and your graduate degree. And they show up on both your transcripts. So when you go to start the master's program, you'd have 6 hours less. If you're a finance major and you join the MSA program, same thing. They allow 1 of those to be done. So I just want to make sure you're ready for this question because it will be asked if you talk to public accounting firms. The one issue that comes up, what do I put on my resume? Usually the coursework, we used to have this information form. Most of the time they're seeing your transcripts. So they're going to know your coursework. So I won't put that on there. As far as tech skills, if you need something space to fill up, okay, you can have a section. And I think we may have taken it out of our template. But if you used, really the employers are looking for if you used it extensively. I would highly recommend if you have a job you used it extensively, put that in your resume. Wherever your job is at, put what you used. If you used SAP, Oracle, anything else, or if you used Excel using pivot tables or something like that, put that on your resume at the position so the recruiters can see that.
Okay, so we've made it through the material, so feel free to I have thrown a handshake, getting started in handshake article into the chat. There were a couple questions about settings and posting of resumes and things like that. But real quick, I just want to be sure that we go out one last time to our website, and I'm going to share this, but certainly keep the questions coming. And I'm going to share the website that we've made mention of a couple times. And so again, so if you go College of Business and then careers and internships, the internship application process would be right here. So under internships, and you're going to notice that there's specific language for accounting students here and the accounting program requirements that we talked about at the top. And then if we go to events, in our last 2 minutes here, we've got all of our events here. So we click Meet the Accountants Night, and this is going to be where all of our additional resources for this event are going to be posted. So you saw the information sessions here, the actual virtual career fair link is here, accounting mock interview day is here. The timeline that we made reference to lives here, as well as some videos on how to prepare for these new virtual career fairs. A lot of the material that we just walked through. So this is here for you to kind of review and circle back to. The resume template can also be found here. So there's a template for an internship resume, template for a full-time resume. If you need to kind of make sure you're on track or need to quickly do an overhaul of the resume. If you need to do an overhaul of a resume and you need somebody to review it with you. So if we go back to our CSO Career Service Office page, you can also schedule appointments from our homepage here and meet with one of our career advisors to talk about your particular questions of resume reviews and questions about the process. All right, so that's a quick tour of the website, and the screenshots gave us a quick tour of Handshake. And then one last question. Past students have told us it makes a big difference if they help them prepare, highly recommending the mock interviews. I know it's painful, maybe awkward to do, but set yourself apart from the competition to do that. So yes, excellent observation there. Okay, well, we're in our last minute, and so Mr. Rose, anything to close with?
So it is a lot, guys. I really understand that, but if you want it, you put the time in, and this is the place where you get that internship or get the full-time offer. If those of you who have are looking for full-time, you may, if let's say they're only offering interns, I get this question a lot. If you go in and say, well, I'm looking for full-time, but I'm open to an internship, doesn't mean you have to accept the internship if you get it, but at least you have more options and you're not limiting yourself. So use that as a rule of thumb if you're looking for full-time.
Excellent. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, that is 1 o'clock, and so I'll sign us off. And again, the recording of this will go on our website as quickly as possible, but look for that by the end of the week. And thank you all for your time. Best of luck during this whole process, and you know where to find both of us if needed. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a good afternoon.